with their heavy machine guns and heavy army boots. They hit the door so hard that the door came down with the hinges flat. And with the machine guns, they started shooting, killing my uncle and aunt and my cousins. And the tall young lady fell on top of me. Many bullets went into her. My life was spared. She was laying on top of me. Late in the afternoon, my parents and sisters came back. More than 80% in that high building were men, women, and children were murdered. My father kept yelling, "Let's get out of here. Possibly the Nazis are coming back." I was crying. I says, "Daddy, look at me. Blood all over my hair, all over my clothes from the young lady. I need to clean up, please." My father yelling, "No. Any moment the Nazis can come back." It was no use. He didn't let me clean myself up. The blood all over me. I was so irritated. We ran out of the building. We ran maybe 2 or 3 blocks. We came to a street, a very large, long street. On the left-hand side on that street, there were many, many apartment buildings. All our money was withheld in the bank. They wouldn't let us have any. We couldn't get an apartment. On the opposite side, on the same street, there were 2 warehouses. My father walks across the street to one of those warehouses, and he tries the door, and the door was not locked. He opens the door and he walks inside. Moments later he comes out and he says, "Children, the place is empty. Let's go inside. Better than to be in the street." And so we went inside. Inside, no objects of any kind. Just 4 walls, a cement ceiling and a concrete floor, and that 1 door entrance. And full of garbage, full of filth. It smelled horrible. We had no blankets, no pillows, we had nothing. About maybe a few weeks later, all of a sudden, my brother, do you remember? The one who was taken prisoner of war, all of a sudden walks in. How did he get home? They didn't let any prisoners of war to come home. My brother was just one Jew. The others were not Jewish. The Nazis were attempting to kill him. A Nazi called him over. He says, "Jude, komm her, du Schweinhund. Jew, you dirty. Komm her, du Schweinhund. Jew, you dirty Jew. Come here. The gate is open for you. You are free. You can go home." When he came to the gate, and they opened the gate, they thought that he is going to walk out. He didn't walk out. He ran so fast for his life. I don't think any one of you can imagine how fast he was running. They were not prepared for him to run. He ran. It took him many, many nights to run. He knew that we ran to our uncle in that city, Tarnów. When he came there, he found out what happened. He also found out where we are. About maybe a couple of weeks later, there were signs in the city. Huge signs on every street, on every 3, 4 buildings. signs, and the signs were saying that all the Jews of the city Tarnów are to register at the Nazi headquarters. Anyone who failed to do so will be shot to death. So we went to register. A huge building, Nazi headquarters. Thousands of men, women, and children outside lining up. Inside is unbelievable. When it came your turn, you handed over your identification card. He looked at it. He looked at you. He looked at your identification card again. And he put a stamp on it. A stamp. When we came home, call it home, into that warehouse, my brother looks at this circle with the letter K in the middle. My 5 sisters and my father. A stamp, a letter K in the middle. My brother says, things are no good. He says, you better hide. My mother and my father, my sisters, everybody yelling, explain to us, what does that mean? He says, they're going to send you into a concentration camp. And if one of you will survive, it will be a miracle. The only chance you have is to hide. Where can you hide? Nowhere. But my brother, a very educated young man, he was a metal engineer. He was a building engineer. Very educated. He walked out the warehouse and he went across the street to one of the apartment buildings and came back with a hammer and chisel in his hand. And with that hammer, he walks over to the wall, hitting the wall with that hammer. Every 2-3 feet he walks, he hits that hammer, boom. When he came to the last wall, hitting that hammer, it sounded different. You know, a brick wall sounded different. And this wall here sounded like plywood, like a hollow. You remember, ladies and gentlemen, I told you there were 2 warehouses. So, there was a wall for this warehouse. Then there was about this much space, like we have here between the chairs. Another wall for the next warehouse. So there were 2 walls between the 2 warehouses. And in the middle was like a long alley, empty. We all went underneath these floorboards. My brother was the last one to pull these floorboards level with the floor. We were hiding behind the wall. Who would find us behind the wall? The wall facing the street, a brick wall. Some of the bricks were missing like cement, like an inch, a half an inch, a pencil size. You could peep through between the bricks and you could see across the street the apartment buildings. You could see traffic going by. When it got dark, we lay down on the floor, sleeping. Early next morning, possibly before 5 in the morning, we hear rifle shooting, machine gun shooting, screaming of men, women, and children. We got up, looking between these bricks. You could see Nazis smashing the windows from the top floors, throwing out babies, pushing out elderly people from the top floors, forcing down men, women, and children through the stairs, and Nazis standing there with the rifles and machine guns as these men, women, and children